Hey guys, welcome to an interesting video in Wild Rift. So today we're going to be taking a look at an Ezreal top build, right? So what do I mean by top build? Well, basically it's the build used by the top players. So let's take a look at the top 3 players. You can see that the first player does have Riftmaker as his third item, but you can see that the second and third actually have Mole Reminder as the third item. And at the time that I had this gameplay, Mole Reminder was the third item for all top 10 players. So I was like, maybe they're onto something here. Let me try this out for myself instead of going for Riftmaker third. So this top player build is closer to what I normally build. I actually normally build Riftmaker and then Borg and then Mole Reminder as a last item. Sometimes I do swap around Borg and Mole Reminder depending on the situation. But I was deciding to try out and see if Mole Reminder as a third item is actually good. Because in my opinion, Mole Reminder gives you lackluster stats, where you only get 30 AD, right? You get Armor Pen and Grievous Wounds, but normally I would say you can wait for a fourth item and kind of delay it a little bit, and you don't need to go for it third. Whereas with Riftmaker, you get Omnivamp and True Damage. So I'm thinking like that's probably more damage and more important than going for Mole Reminder. But what are my views on it now? Well, we'll talk a bit more about it in the gameplay. But basically, it's a pretty standard Ezreal build. You always want to rush Gluttonous Greaves for the laning power, and then you want to go into your Manamune Triforce 2 item combo. Of course, the Mirror Mana, when it's evolved, is going to do extra damage on both your autos as well as your abilities, and of course you do need the mana from this as well. And then Triforce, of course, makes you more tanky with the health, gives you AD, attack speed, ability haste most importantly, as well as the Spell Blade, which will proc on your Q automatically. And as I often mention, I actually like to go for the tier and then into the Sheen personally. Unless I have enough gold to complete the entire Manamune, then I will do that. Otherwise, I will go for the tier into Sheen combo. And then as mentioned, we have Mole Reminder as a third item, and we have Riftmaker as a fourth item, and finally you have Bork as a last item just for that current health on hit damage to deal with the tanks as well. And for the runes, it's the pretty standard ADC loadout. However, for the Keystone rune, you have a choice between Empowerment and Conquer, right? So you can see that we have Conquer here, we have PTA here, and we have Conqueror here. So this is really personal preference. You can see even between the top players, they're kind of flip-flopping between the two. Now, I personally like Empowerment more because you get a lot of laning power, and you can actually like kill people in lane. This is especially good if you are good at hitting your skill shots on Ezreal, and you can, if you land your skill shots in lane with the power of the empowerment, you can easily kill people in lane and snowball off of that. So that's the way I enjoy playing Ezreal personally, but Conqueror is a lot more consistent in the mid and late game. Now for the spells, normally you're gonna go for Flash and Cleanse. However, in the event that you don't actually need Cleanse, then Barrier or Exhaust is gonna be the way to go. But now let's take a look at the gameplay and discuss more about the top build. Okay, so let's take a look at the gameplay now. Now, Ezreal's best supports are going to be poke-based supports. So champions like maybe like a Nami, like a Karma. Ezreal Karma is a very famous lane. Ezreal Zyra here that we have is also really insane because Zyra has kind of insane poke. And I know at the very beginning of the game, action is going to happen right here and right now. Pyke goes in for the hook. We both dodge it. I'm trying to land my spells on the Jhin. Look at the damage onto Jhin. I proc my PTA. And then, just with the auto Q auto, we get the kill. So if we get Conqueror there, there's no way we get that kill, by the way. At the minimum, Jhin is going to like have to run all the way back to tower. We might get the kill eventually, but you can see that the PTA proc did a lot of damage, as well as the follow-up auto Q auto after the PTA proc did a lot of damage because of the extra 8% damage from the PTA. And here we proc it onto the Pyke as well. Pyke does hook us, but it doesn't really matter because it actually just pulls us closer to attack him. Now we are getting relatively low, but we do want to clear this wave before we bat so we don't miss out on the golden XP. Jhin has 4-shot, but he doesn't have flash anymore. Unloads his 4-shot onto the minions, and this allows us a very easy time to just clear wave, Arcane Shift away, and then recall. So we are pretty much 0 health, 0 mana at this point. So we can just go back, restore everything, and also pick up our Gluttonous Greaves and try to snowball the lane off of that. So 1-0 and 1 already, 1 minute into the game is pretty insane. So now let me discuss a little bit about our conversation topic, right, which is talking about Mole Reminder third item versus Riftmaker first item. I think that's the main argument because really your last 3 items of going for like Armor Pen item combined with Riftmaker combined with Bork is really kind of flexible. You can kind of swap it around. Borg, I would say, is rarely the third item though, as we go in and kill Pyke once again from their over-aggression. We're running down the Jhin. He gets baited back a little bit by Zyra being low and dies. We pick up another double kill, and we're just getting the snowball rolling with the help of our Zyra as well as from our PCA. Right, so really between the last three items, there's really a couple of debates to be had, right? Number one is, what is your armor penetration item? Because Ezreal can go for Seraldas, Terminus, and Mole Reminder, right? So really, I would say that as a general purpose item, Mole Reminder is just the best default armor penetration item, because in every game, basically, there's going to be some kind of healing, right? Because healing and shielding are so common in the meta nowadays. There's always going to be healings, either from the champion's kit itself, or it could be from the items that they get, you know. So basically, there's always going to be healing. So Mole Reminder is kind of the best default. I would say that Seraldas is very good against frontline tanks, as we use the E to cancel the Pyke hook there. I would say the Seraldas Grudge is very useful against maybe not frontline tanks, but people who you can kite, right? So people who have low mobility, so champions like Darius, like Set, like these kind of low mobility champions, it's really good to take Seralda's Grudge against them, because they don't have the ability to run you down because of the slow on Seraldas. However, it's also very good to take Terminus against these champions, because it's very easy to auto attack them and stack Terminus. So often Terminus and Seraldas are directly competing against each other as to which one you want to go for in terms of armor penetration when there's a lot of frontline. And I would say that Mole Reminder is pretty much the best when there isn't a lot of frontline and there isn't a lot of mobility. Or there is a lot of mobility, I guess you should say, because you can see in this game, the front line is Gnar and Vi, but Gnar and Vi both have dashes and they can both easily get close, right? So Seraldas is not going to be very useful against them. Terminus could be okay, but I think healing cut here is pretty nice to have, right? So here we're going in onto the Pyke. Pyke is getting pretty low, but we can't really take him down. So then we go into the next debate, which is the item order between the armor pen item, Riftmaker, as well as Bork, right? So Bork is normally last or second last. It normally doesn't make sense to go for Bork third, just because you have a better option, better damage option in the form of Riftmaker. Now I have gone for Bork as a third item before, only when the enemy team is super duper tanky. But normally when the enemy team is really tanky, like 3+ tanks, you normally don't want to play Ezreal anyway. You want to play some kind of tank busting champion, unless you have already picked Ezreal in the build, in which case of course you don't have a choice, right? So normally Bork is going to be last or second last. So then the debate becomes, should I go for Armor Pen first, or should I go for Riftmaker first? Now, as a default, I normally like to actually go for Riftmaker first, right? Because Riftmaker, of course, gives you more damage stats, gives you the Omnivamp, gives you the true damage as well. Whereas the Armor Pen, like especially Mole Reminder in particular, gives you like not very good stats, right? As we flash over, get the kill on Jhin under tower, and we're gonna make our escape. So here, Lux and Pyke are both hitting us. Look at that cleanse, by the way. That was a perfectly timed cleanse right as the Lux Q hits, and we end up actually escaping here with our lives. Pyke here tries to ult, but ends up getting taunted by Rammus. We're just gonna take him out. Rammus gets the kill, and we're gonna just do the dragon since we're already here. So why then are people building Mole Reminder as a third item? Well, I can only imagine that because unlike a crit champion, right? Crit champions normally build Mole Reminder fourth because they want IE third for that damage spike, right? But Ezreal doesn't really have that problem. He doesn't need to build IE third to get the IE damage spike, right? He can go for Mole Reminder earlier. I would say personally that the earliest stage of the game that you can get armor penetration is going to be third item. Like, there used to be like a thing where like Kha'Zix or whatnot went for Seralda's Grudge as a second item. That's way too early. You do want to go for it third item at the earliest. So this is kind of that point where the enemy like tanks start to get like 1 to 2 items at least, and they start to become a little bit more tanky, and then you actually need Armor Pen to kind of deal with them. But I can say you can afford to delay it until the fourth item. So really, I believe it's a lot more about personal preference, because third or fourth item both can kind of work personally. So I think I probably would go for Riftmaker as a third item myself, but I can definitely see why people are going for the third item Mole Reminder. And here I'm just looking for Jhin, right? Because Jhin is really vulnerable. He has obviously been not doing very well against us the entire game. However, Zyra is pretty low, so he's trying to take Zyra out with the ulti. I'm trying to block and move forward at the same time. Unfortunately, as a result of the wall, I end up actually moving to the left a little bit, allowing Jin to then shoot the Zyra and get the kill onto her, which is a little bit unfortunate there, because I could have, I mean, I was kind of blocking it, but I just messed up. I mean, either you could say I messed up by moving to the left, or Zyra messed up by not following me to the left, but either which way, it doesn't end up working out. And Vi's now coming top, and there's 3 men hitting my tower, so I'm backing off just a little bit. Fiddlesticks and Zyra are now on the way, so maybe there's a play to be made here. Fiddlesticks going in with the ulti, my ulti goes in as well. I hit, I think 2 people with the ulti, he hits all 3, and we end up just taking out most of the enemy team. By the way, guys, it's a Fiddlesticks mid and a Rammus jungle, which is a pretty strange thing to have, but yeah, we do have that on our team. Now here I'm just going to take out the tower while my Rammus is busy killing the Pyke. And I'm just going to clear up the next minion wave. And Vi here is taking Hexgate into 3 people, right? So we gotta be here to kill her, right? You can't just let her take the Hexgate for free, right? But she does Q away, and as a result, we can't really fight her under tower, so we're going to just back off. Pick up our Triforce. Fight's happening bot. I'm just going to launch my ulti to try to help out. If I can hit it. Nope, they had run too far away by then. But even if I did hit it, I don't think Lux or Gnar dies anyway, so it doesn't really matter. Now going to the mid lane, just to clear the minions. We're trying to evolve our mana min to mirror mana, so you can see we're using spells. And right as I say that, we actually get the evolution into the mirror mana. So now we do have the 2 item power spike on Ezreal. Now I would say that Ezreal is a very strong mid-game champion. On this 2 item power spike, he is really strong. So you definitely want to be like looking for fights now, if you can find it. Which is why I'm aggressively shifting onto the Pyke, hitting my spells onto him, and Fiddlesticks picks up the kill. But now since we have like 4 members top, the enemy team is pushing the 2 outer lanes, which is very well played by the enemy team. You always want to be making a cross-map play, especially when you're behind. They are slightly behind, but not by very much. Vi though goes a little bit too aggressive, goes into our jungle and tries to steal camps, I guess. Rammus and myself managed to chase her away and basically force her flash. Rammus is still on the chase. I don't think it's worth chasing the Vi, a long distance, so I'm just gonna go back here, farm the minions, and here I'm trying to snipe the Vi with my ulti, and it nearly hits, but nearly doesn't count, so Vi actually survives on 1 HP, and Rammus pays for his sins by overchasing into the enemy team and getting himself into a 1v3. Now, the issue with that is Dragon is now spawning, and my team is fighting at Dragon without me, and Rammus is of course dead. So here, my team is like in a 2v4, but somehow Fiddlesticks actually kills one of them. I can only assume he got a very good ulti off. Zyra is running for her life. Myself and Jax are making our way there. Shift on my way in, and Pyke is pretty low. We get the kill onto the Pyke. Jin 4 shots me, but barely does any damage. And yeah, we managed to salvage the situation. I think honestly only because of how far ahead we were that the 2v4 didn't end up in a complete disaster. We actually ended up killing 4 people in total. And yeah, it just works out pretty well. So this Jin likes to use his ulti to actually clear minions. So I actually kept trying to body block there to prevent him from clearing the minions. Now my team is going in super aggressive here. I'm getting the ulti into the choke point and then just mashing my spells. And launching my pot shots into the group. Now Vi is chasing real deep. We get the kill onto her. We have Gnar now using all his cooldowns. So I'm not overly scared of him because he just used all his cooldowns. So I know he's not going to be able to stun me or anything like that. But I'm pretty low. So I'm going to hop over here, pick up some fruit, and then blast these minions and push the wave in. Now Fiddlesticks goes in a little bit too deep, over chases and dies the Jin. Now remember that when you are doing well, you don't want to be over chasing into the enemy team. Now this Rammus and the Fiddlesticks has a propensity to chase down the enemy team, and this is landing them into hot soup, and they're basically just dying needlessly for it. However, all of us are still kind of doing very well. Jin, though, despite being kind of destroyed in the early game, is not even that far behind me, and he's actually doing really well comparatively to the rest of his team and the rest of the people in the game, which is pretty surprising considering how much he's died in the early game. Now here I've gotten my armor penetration item already. Of course, this is going to be very handy against especially the Vi and the Gnar, who are going to be pretty tanky people. Now here, look at what Zyra is doing, right? She's waiting for the 12-minute mark to get the blue buff, because that will basically give it to the entire team, like so. So that's a pretty important thing to do, because you don't want to just waste the blue buff on yourself if there's only like 5 seconds left until the minute 12 mark, unless you kind of need to go to somewhere else. Now here I nearly hit a 3-man out, but it ends up becoming a 1-man out only. Fight is breaking out in the bottom lane near the Baron area. Gnar is coming, and yeah, it's a full-on fight here. Fiddlesticks ends up going down. I'm trying to chase in the enemy team. The slow comes in from the Rylai's of the Zyra. Now there's 2 fights here. I'm kind of trying to decide which fight to go for. Zyra already picks up a double. I get the kill onto the Gnar off the side. Pyke now tries to stun us. Only stuns the Zyra though. Now here I'm going to cleanse out. I'm just going to kill the Jhin while he's in the ulti. But his 4th shot somehow still hits me, which is... yeah, I think I got a little bit too close to him there. And that is a crucial mistake, because now it's me and the Pyke in a basically 1v1 here. We're both 1 HP. Pyke hooks me, and I'm 1 HP. Now I'm going to ult him, and he actually hits, but he has picked up the fruit. Now he's dashing in onto me. I'm trying to kill him, but I can't. One more auto would have done it, but unfortunately Pyke picks up the kill and gets, I believe, a 1k shutdown. The base kill goal and the bounty goal. Because I had not yet died prior to this. I was 9-0, so I believe Pyke gets the shutdown. But I guess out of anyone on the team, Pyke getting the shutdown is not really the worst in the world. And now the enemy team is grouping mid, getting the mid lane priority. My team is trying to get to the region as well. Jax is getting jumped on by the enemy team. Gets off a nice 2-man stun. Pyke goes down, gets shut down. And a huge fight is now breaking out. Jax and Fiddlesticks together is just killing all of them. And the enemy team started the fight, but we're going to end the fight. Triple kill already coming through. Jhin now getting run down. He has nowhere to go. Dies. Lux also in a little bit of trouble. Doesn't die. And I actually could have chased her and helped out here, but it wasn't needed. The Jax is gonna finish the job, and this gives a free Baron to our team with the entire enemy team dead. No like global ultis to steal, because Lux is gonna be dead for another 30 seconds. Obviously Vi is not gonna reach her in time, so we get a free Baron whilst our team is also pushing in the mid lane. And I'm gonna push out the bot lane, because the enemy team is gonna have to be dealing with the mid wave, so they're not gonna be able to come over here and stop me. Now here you can see that my 1Q is now doing a ton of damage, right? So you can see that 1Q hit onto Pyke did about 1/3 of his health. So Ezreal I actually think is really strong of an ADC right now. You can see I put him in the S+ tier, and I think that after Varus he's probably the 2nd strongest ADC out of all of them. I actually think that at this point he's better than like Sivir, and he's better than like Corki, which I didn't really notice until I started playing Ezreal a little bit more. I realized that he's really strong. That's not a very big surprise, right? Ezreal has been pretty strong ADC for quite some time. You can see I just one-shot the Lux right there. Unfortunately, Zyra tanks the tower and ends up going down. But now with the Baron, Ren is pushing in onto the inhibs. Now Pyke, is gonna die right there. And we're gonna be able to get this inhib double cannon minion just blasting it in. And the whole enemy team is dead, so we can probably just end the game right here. Fiddlesticks just ulting for fun. But here I mess up. Why am I not ending the game, right? So here I could have just hit the Nexus and ended the game, but I didn't. I think Fiddlesticks and my team must think that I'm trolling, which I kind of am, because I could have just ended the game here, so I ended up just backing off. Not for having more fun in the game being fed, but I have this tendency to think that whenever there's a Nexus shield, the game is unendable, but that's not actually true, right? Because even if there's a Nexus shield, if the whole enemy team is dead and you do enough damage, you can kill Nexus anyway. Just look at the Nexus health now, right? It's like about 3/4 health, right? Which means the minions killed the Nexus shield and 1/3 of the Nexus health, right? So if myself and Phil6 just hit the Nexus, we would have ended the game. And I completely troll it by not doing so, but you know, it's fine. We still got double inhib going for the triple inhib now, and we should still be alright. Now we're pretty much just grouping up here to try to siege this last inhib. I'm hitting multiple of my spells onto them, trying to chase them away from the inhib. We're gonna secure this inhib so they don't have any more extra safety. Now we're just gonna to blast whoever is nearby, and we could just focus the Nexus right now as well if the minion wave actually pushes in. Fiddlesticks going in with the ulti. I'm starting to tank the Jhin ulti, and I'm just gonna pop the stasis. Zyra pops the stasis as well, and I'm trying to get one last kill before the game ends. There we go. We get a kill onto the Lux, and we get the win right here. So with all that said, I'm gonna leave you guys with the stats as usual. Thank you guys so much for watching the video, and goodbye.